Imagine if one day you found a door that was connected to another world, and any items or skills you acquired could be brought back to the real world. The story begins with a girl being harassed by some men, but then we meet Yuya, a boy who tries to stand up to them, but the men call him fat and ugly and end up beating him up. Eventually, the police arrive, and the men flee. The girl thanks him for his help, but Yuya says he is fine and walks away. We learn that he was taught by his grandfather to always be kind and help those in need. When he gets home, we see that his house is covered in graffiti with insult. We learn that since he was young, he has been bullied by everyone. Even his parents treated him poorly because his siblings were considered beautiful, but he was ugly. When he reached middle school, things got worse as he started getting beaten up at school. Only his grandfather looked after him, always reminding him that being kind would make him happy. His grandfather eventually passed away but left his house and all his savings to him. His parents tried to contest the will, but in the end, Yuya was given everything, and his parents completely abandoned him. So, he lives alone and works part-time every day. At school, Yuya is graduating from middle school, but in his yearbook, there are only mean comments about him. When he tries to leave, he is stopped by his bullies, who remind him that even though he is graduating, he is still their errand boy. Yuya says he needs to get to his job, but the bullies beat him up, and we see his brother and sister just watching from a distance. When he finally arrives at his job, his boss is fed up with him always being late and fires him. At home, Yuya has a depressing meal, and when he looks at himself in the mirror, he has a tantrum and smashes the mirror, thinking that nothing will change even after graduation. He punches the wall, and suddenly it opens a hidden room. There are several strange items in the room, and Yuya thinks they must be souvenirs from his grandfather's travels. He finds a peculiar door, and when he opens it, it leads to a strange room. He gets scared when a notification appears. As he reads it, he learns that the door is connected to another world. There are several notifications telling him about various functions available to him, such as the ability to store items and control who can use the door. Although confused by the functions, he thinks the system is like a game, so he decides to check his status. But when he sees it, he is devastated to find that all his stats are very low. He looks around the room, and when he looks outside, he realizes that it really is another world. He finds a note on the table, but at first, he can't read it. However, he acquires a language skill that helps him understand it. He learns that the owner of the house was a great sage, but he was about to die, so he left it to whoever found it, including all its contents. The house is protected by magic, so no one can break in besides the owner. He finds several weapons inside, and as he examines them, he discovers that they are exceptional items and extremely dangerous. He looks outside and tries swinging a sword, but ends up falling over, although he manages to learn a basic sword skill. Thinking it could be useful, Yuya trains with each of the weapons, finding that they are all god-tier items, and he gains a number of skills. Despite this, his stats still remain at level 1, and he wonders how to increase them. He puts the weapons away into his storage, but suddenly a monster attacks. Yuya is terrified but soon realizes that his house is protected. The monster is a level 300 bloody ogre, and it smashes against the magical wall, trying to use a tree to break in, but it doesn't work. Yuya thinks he should try fighting back, so he throws his spear, which goes right through the monster and instantly kills it in one hit. The spear returns to him, and the monster disappears, dropping a number of items. Yuya suddenly reaches level 100, and he is shocked to see his new stats. After allocating all his points, Yuya decides to call it a day. When he tries to leave, a cash-out option appears, converting the monster's items into money. Yuya is confused by this but gladly accepts it. Later that night, Yuya undergoes a change in his body, which completely transforms. When he wakes up, he finds his body is different, and his clothes no longer fit. He is unsure of what is happening, and since his mirror is still broken, he decides to look for some clothes. There are magical clothes in the sage's house that freely adjust in size and provide a range of magical bonuses. Yuya wonders about the identity of the sage and looks around the garden. Suddenly, he is attacked by a level 200 slime monster. But this time Yuya calmly brings out his spear and easily destroys the monster. It drops some coffee slime and even a rare necklace that has the ability to restore his magic power. He levels up again, gaining a presence detection skill, and he is already at level 150. He tries some of the coffee slime and finds it quite good. He decides to use some of the money he has made to buy a new uniform, ordering it to be ready for the start of high school. After that, he spent every day in the other world, and he starts to enjoy himself, even forgetting his depression. He trains and learns as much as possible about the other world. An elite goblin attacks his house, but Yuya has become completely different, skillfully fighting against it and even using a skill to destroy the goblin. Time flies, and the start of high school arrives, and everyone is immediately drawn to him. Even his siblings seem to be in awe. In class, his bullies approach him, but they don't recognize him, thinking he is a transfer student. When he tells them he is Yuya, everyone is shocked and doesn't believe him. When he goes to the bathroom, he is completely shocked to see himself for the first time since his transformation. After class, his brother and sister approach him, wondering what he did to change so drastically, calling him a loser. But suddenly, a limo stops, and the girl he saved is looking for him. He wonders who she is, and she reminds him of how he saved her. Yuya wonders how she knows his name, and she admits that she looked into him because she wanted to thank him, and she introduces herself as Kaori. She asks if he would like to join the Jose Academy, and Yuya recognizes it as an academy for the super elite. We learn that Kaori is on the student council, and her father is the chairman of the academy. Yuya is flattered by the offer but thinks he isn't smart enough to join such a prestigious academy. His brother interrupts, asking to join the academy and saying that they are superior to Yuya in both academics and sports. But Kaori refuses because they are insulting Yuya, who is her hero. She reveals that she has already looked into the family and knows all about their nefarious behavior towards Yuya. She continues by telling Yuya that their academy emphasizes personality, not just academic performance, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to enroll. Her presence suggests showing him the academy, so she pulls him away, and they leave, while his siblings are left in disbelief at what just happened. They arrive at the academy, which is a famous school filled with students who excel. He meets the chairman, Tsukasa, who thanks him for saving his daughter. Yuya says it wasn't a big deal, but Kaori says that he was the only one who helped her. Tsukasa invites him to join the school, even offering to pay his tuition as thanks for helping his daughter, but Yuya hesitates, thinking he won't fit in because only geniuses are normally accepted. Tsukasa says that geniuses are just normal people who have found the right way to work hard and use less time, but Yuya believes they are gifted with talent. Tsukasa tells him that everyone has their own talents, and through challenges and having fun, he will eventually discover what his talents are, saying that he is still young. He suggests Yuya try out the school for a day. A teacher named Sawada enters, and Tsukasa introduces her as a renowned scientist, but her classes are popular and easy to understand. Yuya prepares for his first class, worrying that he might be in over his head, but he thinks that things can't be worse than at normal school. He gets called in and introduces himself, but all the students appear stunned. He worries about what they think of him, but they are actually shocked by how handsome he is. He sits at the back and shares a book with the girl next to him, but she is a bit cold towards him, and he worries that she already hates him. Kaori wonders if Yuya will fit in with his class, and as the class goes on, he actually finds it pretty normal, except that the students are much more active and engaged. During the break, a bunch of students try to get to know him, asking questions like if he is an idol or if he has a girlfriend. A student named Rio stops them from bothering him and takes Yuya to the cafeteria for lunch. Yuya is amazed by the menu, and everything is free, so Yuya thinks it's like a dream. They sit with another student named Shingo and start talking about anime, and Yuya is surprised to find that they are just like him. While eating, he notices that everyone is looking at him, and he thinks it's because he is wearing a different uniform. Shingo asks if he is in any clubs, but Yuya says he's not part of any. Rio isn't in a club either, but it's because he's good at all kinds of sports and has trouble choosing just one. Shingo reveals that he is part of the gaming club, and Yuya is surprised that consoles are allowed at school, but Shingo says it's fine as long as they don't play during class. As they talk about video games, Yuya becomes more comfortable with them. At the end of the day, he meets with Tsukasa and admits that he had a good time, and Yuya decides that he wants to join the school. As he leaves the room, he runs into Kaori, who asks if he's joining. He tells her his decision, and she is glad he chose to stay. She invites him to join her after school, and they visit some shops in a popular area. Yuya wonders if this is where she hangs out with her friends, but she reveals that she doesn't go out often because people seem to be hesitant about her family and her father. But she says that he is different. Yuya gets nervous, so she suggests checking out a crepe shop. Looking at the prices, he is glad he has been cashing out from the other world. As they try the crepes, they have a good time, and Yuya wants to try other flavors, but he suddenly thinks that if he eats too much, he might return to his original shape. He asks Kaori how she recognized him, even though he looks so different, but she says that although he is a bit slimmer, she recognized him because his eyes are still the same. She offers him a bite of her crepe since he wanted to try other flavors, so he takes a bite but feels a bit embarrassed. She notices how he feels, but he also offers her a bite. Nervously, she accepts and takes a bite, while some girls watch, thinking they look really cute together. Later that night, Yuya decides to head back to the other world. Putting on a full set of armor, he enters, confronting the monsters that appear. Even though he is still scared, he cuts them down and notices that he has leveled up to 235, but realizes that his leveling speed has slowed considerably. So, he thinks about leaving his house to find stronger monsters to fight. Thinking about his time at the academy, Yuya wants to find a new challenge. But as he heads out of the gate, he suddenly hears a scream. He pulls out his spear and rushes toward the sound, finding several soldiers brutally killed. He notices a monster, a level 200 goblin general. Yuya knows it is dangerous, but he sees a girl behind the monster. He throws his spear at it, but the goblin deflects it. However, at that moment, Yuya jumps and defeats the goblin. He turns towards the girl, but she shouts at him, warning about another goblin behind him. He is thrown back and realizes that this new goblin is stronger and faster than him, but Yuya doesn't give up, thinking he has other strength. He uses his spear to vault over the goblin, switches to his bow, and launches a barrage of arrows. Then, he switches again to his sword and cuts the goblin in half. He checks on the girl, wondering about the other humans in this world, but she faints. He hears men approaching, so he uses an invisibility skill to avoid them. Knights arrive, searching for the girl, and we learn that she is a princess named Lexia. Back at his house, Yuya thinks about the encounter, wondering if the girl is okay, but since knights appeared to help her, he believes she should be fine. Looking at his shirt, he thinks he should try buying some new clothes since he has made some money from the other world. We see all of them, and as Yuya walks around, people stare at him, thinking he must be some kind of actor or model. His shirt is enchanted to stay clean, but he thinks he should buy other clothes so he doesn't always look the same. Meanwhile, we see a director yelling at another man. The man is the manager of a model named Sho, but Sho hasn't shown up for the photo shoot. The manager gets a call from Sho and learns that he's on his way, but the director is mad because Sho isn't respecting everyone's time, especially Myo, their other model, who has been waiting all morning. The theme of the photo shoot is focused on being a couple, so it's impossible to shoot without him. The director thinks about what they should do, and since everyone is waiting to start, he decides to look for a replacement in the mall. As Yuya shops around, he feels overwhelmed by the number of choices. He is approached by some girls, and he worries it might be a sales tactic. They ask to know more about him and even offer to help him shop. Not wanting to offend them, he politely declines. The girls are left stunned and start freaking out over him, but Yuya wonders if he handled the situation the right way. The director struggles to find a replacement, but tells his assistant that they can't give up. They pass by Yuya, and the director instantly thinks he is the one. Yuya is approached, and the director explains their situation to him. Yuya is nervous about doing it, but thinking about all the people counting on him, he eventually agrees to be their model. He acts as the boyfriend for the shoot, taking photos in various outfits and poses. The director tells him to look sexier, but Yuya struggles with the direction. However, Myo tells him he's doing well for his first time, and Yuya is captivated by her beauty. She thanks him for saving them, but Yuya notices they are getting closer to him. The director notes that Yuya is looking a bit stiff. They move to their next location, and Yuya is impressed by Myo's professionalism, even though they are around the same age. This motivates him to give his best effort, but Myo grabs him for the next shot, and he panics as she presses closer to him. The director tells her to get even closer, so she wraps her arms around him and gets even closer, which embarrasses Yuya further as the crowd starts to watch them. Meanwhile, in the other world, we see Princess Lexia thinking about how she was saved. She decides to head out, and her knight wonders where she's going. She says she's going back to the dark forest to find the person who saved her, but the knight says it's impossible for someone to be living in that forest. However, Lexia insists she was saved by someone and needs to thank them. Her knight warns her of the dangers of returning, but she says that they are all going with her this time, and they wonder where she inherited such reckless behavior from. Back at the mall, the photo shoot ends, and Yuya is exhausted. Myo thanks him again, and Yuya suddenly chokes on his drink. Myo offers him her handkerchief, but Yuya worries because he's sweaty, yet he can't use his sleeve either because the clothes aren't his. Yuya reflects on his experience as a model and thinks Myo is amazing at it, but Myo says she's just gotten used to it, mentioning how she used to make a lot of mistakes when she started. He thinks about Myo's first time wearing such fashionable clothes, something he never had the chance to do in the past. He wonders why she started modeling, and she says she just wanted to be noticed because her parents were always too busy to spend time with her. After she started gaining some fans, she continued because she had people cheering her on, and she liked that she could bring happiness to the people who saw her. She tells him he can do it too, saying he should go at his own pace and reminds him to enjoy all the moments along the way. As they chat, the director takes some candid photos of them. At that moment, Sho suddenly arrives, and the crowd gets excited to see him. He approaches Myo, saying they can get on with their shoot. He pushes her against the wall, wanting to ask her out for drinks, but Yuya can see that she's uncomfortable. He interrupts them, and Sho wonders who he is. Sho tries to punch him, but Yuya throws him away. Everyone is shocked, and Yuya thinks about how slow the punch felt. He worries about causing a scene, thinking he'll get in trouble for beating up such a good-looking guy, but the crowd cheers for him, thinking he's so cool. Sho wonders how he lost, even though he boxes. The director tells him to leave because they caught everything in 4K. Sho runs off, and Myo thanks Yuya for his help, revealing that Sho had been following her around, and she didn't know what to do about it. The director says that Sho's behavior has always been bad, and after this, it's unlikely he'll work again. He asks if Yuya is interested in doing more modeling. Yuya thanks him for giving him the opportunity to work with so many professionals, but he thinks he's not good enough to do the job properly, so he ultimately turns them down. The director respects his decision and ends up giving Yuya all the clothes from the shoot as thanks for his help, since they couldn't pay him because he's just an amateur. Yuya feels that the experience was enough, but the director says it's only natural to be compensated for work, especially since he was the one who saved them, so Yuya accepts. Myo hopes to work with him again in the future, and they wish him good luck. Later in the car, the director laments that Yuya didn't want to continue, knowing he would have been a star. Looking at the photos, Myo thinks about how different Yuya was, and the director notices her blushing, so he teases her, saying she has a crush on him. Yuya organizes his wardrobe, packing all his new clothes, and we see that his photo has made the rounds at the agency. They wonder who he might be, and we see a woman desperate to sign him, ordering her associate to find him before other agencies do, noting how he was able to stand out next to Myo even as an amateur. She is determined not to let him slip away. Meanwhile, in the other world, we see Lexia's knights fighting some goblin. The knights are struggling, and suddenly a goblin appears behind her, but the goblin is defeated when Yuya makes his appearance. They are shocked to see him, and Yuya effortlessly slays the goblin. Lexia is glad to see he is real, and Yuya finishes off the goblin. He tends to one of the knights, and Lexia approaches him, saying she came to the dark forest because she had something to tell him. Yuya wonders what she wants, and she suddenly asks if he will marry her, causing shock among everyone. Her knight wonders what she is thinking, reminding her of her position as a princess and saying they know nothing about Yuya, but Lexia insists it's love at first sight. The two start arguing, but Yuya interrupts, saying it's dangerous in the forest, so he invites them back to his house, which surprises them to learn he actually lives in the forest. They are amazed to see his house, and the knight introduces himself as Owen, the captain of the Arzelian Knights, and he introduces Lexia as the first princess of Arzelia, mentioning that she is second in line for the throne. She thanks him for saving them once again, and Yuya starts to worry about his behavior after learning she is a princess, but they tell him not to worry since it's not an official visit and he is their savior. Yuya introduces himself, but they find his name strange and think he could be from another country. Lexia fantasizes about him being royalty from another country, but Owen worries about other possibilities. Owen reveals that they were there to find him because the first time he saved Lexia, she didn't get the chance to thank him. She says she has been thinking about him ever since that day, saying that it's the first time she has ever felt that way, and asks him to marry her again. Yuya is overwhelmed and thinks the proposal is just too sudden, making the princess think that love can't be so simple. Thinking about every romance novel she has read, she believes love needs obstacles and would be boring if things went so smoothly. So, she asks to start out as his friend. Yuya gets nervous thinking about his past experiences but agrees to be her friend. Owen mentions there is another reason they are there, which is that the king would like him to visit the royal palace to also offer his gratitude in person. Yuya is hesitant, but Owen says it's a royal command, and he can't leave until Yuya agrees. So, Yuya has no choice but to accept the invitation. Owen mentions it will take about 5 days, including travel, but Yuya thinks it would interrupt starting at his new school, so he asks to delay the meeting. Owen says they are happy to wait for him whenever he decides to go. They take their leave, and Lexia tells him to prepare himself because she plans to win his heart the next time they meet. Somewhere in the royal capital, we see a man reporting about their failed attempt on Lexia's life. We see a masked man and learn that he had sent assassins after Lexia, but they ended up in the dark forest and were taken out by monsters. The masked man wonders how Lexia managed to return unscathed and warns his men not to fail him again. He removes his mask, revealing a disfigured face, and we learn he is part of the royal family, as he swears to get his revenge on Lexia. Back at Yuya's house, he marks his calendar for when he plans to see the king. He puts on his new uniform and heads out to start his first day at the academy. Everyone stares at him as he walks, thinking he must be some kind of famous model. When he arrives, the director greets him but apologizes for not having time to talk, reminding Yuya to just enjoy himself at school. Yuya is introduced to the class as an official student, and we see Ryo and Shingo who are happy to see him. The scene cuts to a soccer game where we meet a student named Roy. He scores a goal and all the girls cheer for him. Yuya watches from the sidelines, impressed by his skill, and is approached by a girl named Keed. She wonders why he doesn't join the game, but Yuya says he doesn't have his gym clothes yet. We see Roy go up against the opposing team alone, but he tricks them by passing the ball to his teammate Akira. Akira rushes towards the goal, preparing to use his special move, but messes up and kicks it straight at Keed. However, Yuya manages to stop it and even scores a goal in the process. Everyone is shocked, wondering how he moves so quickly. He checks to see if Keed is okay, but she is left stunned by his skills. Akira comes rushing over to apologize, swearing to become her servant, but Keed says she is okay and turns him down. Roy vouches for Akira, saying he is just a bit quirky, and Akira thanks Yuya for saving both of them. Later, we see Kaori going to change for gym class, and all the girls are talking about Yuya, thinking he is like a prince. He tells her everything that happened, and the girls think he must have a girlfriend since he is so cool, but Kaori and Keed both insist that nothing has been confirmed. In his next class, Yuya waves to Kaori, who is on the field, but suddenly some delinquents burst in on motorbikes. They surround the girls, swinging their bats, and all the students check out the commotion. They recognize the group as the Red Ogres, the most dangerous delinquent group in the area. Yuya recognizes them and sees his siblings with the group. Kaori wonders what they are doing at their school, and Yuya's brother Yoda points her out as the director's daughter. Kaori recognizes the two of them, and they say they are there to get back at her for looking down on them and accepting Yuya into the academy. Kaori warns them that the police are on the way, but Yuya's sister Sora thinks they have time before they arrive, so they plan to abduct her as payback. The goons surround her, and things look bad. Yuya wants to save her but finds his legs shaking, even though he has fought far stronger opponents in the other world. His friends worry about him as he panics, but he manages to snap himself out of it. He opens the window and jumps out, shocking everyone since they are on the 4th floor. However, Yuya lands unscathed. He charges in, confronting his old bully Ryo, who says it's time to teach him a lesson and sends his boys at Yuya. But he easily dodges all their attacks and disarms them all in an instant. Ryo tries to attack, but Yuya runs right past him, focusing on saving Kaori. He's stopped by an enormous man named Amore, who charges at him, but Yuya doesn't even flinch and throws him aside. Yuya reaches Kaori, checking to see if she's okay, but the gang's boss charges at Yuya. Yuya manages to dodge, but the boss attacks with his bike. Yuya jumps out of the way, and the bike crashes, throwing the boss off. The boss is knocked out, and the police arrive. All the delinquents are arrested, and the students are told to return to their classes. Yuya makes sure Kaori is alright, and she suddenly weakens, but Yuya catches her, and they share a moment. Meanwhile, Yoda thinks the Red Ogres were useless, but he is suddenly choked by the boss, who blames him for their situation. Sora pleads for him, but is kicked away, and Yoda continues to be choked until Yuya intervenes, breaking them apart. Yoda thanks him, and the boss charges again, but Yuya merely scares him off. The students wonder what happened, but everything settles down. Yoda wonders why Yuya saved him, and Yuya says that, despite how terrible they've been to him, they're still family, and he couldn't abandon them. His brothers, moved to tears, beg for his forgiveness, apologizing for everything they've done. He is joined by his friends, who marvel at him, amazed at how he jumped from the window. Yuya apologizes for the trouble caused, and they are all astonished by his bravery. Yuya decides to explore deeper into the dark forest, remembering Owen's warning about it being the most dangerous region, with monsters so strong they could easily destroy a city. He reflects on the sage who once owned the house and delves further into the forest, seeking stronger monsters to face. Suddenly, he hears a cry and sees a puppy being attacked by an orc. The puppy glows with dark energy but is too weak to fight. Yuya watches from a distance, noting that the orc is a level 600 orc king with over 20,000 attack. Yuya thinks he stands no chance and nearly gives up on saving the puppy, but the orc continues to beat and stomp on the dog. Yuya can't bring himself to leave it, thinking about what his grandfather would do. He decides to help, thinking he might be able to distract the orc. He charges at the orc and ends up taking it out with a single shot. Yuya feels embarrassed for taking so long to muster the courage, only to finish so easily, but he remembers the ogre he defeated at level 1 and wonders about the sage who created such powerful weapons. He checks on the puppy, which growls at him. He offers a potion, and the puppy passes out. Yuya quickly treats the puppy, which starts to warm up to him. He tries talking to it and learns it is alone with nowhere to go. He offers to take it in, and the puppy happily agrees. Yuya acquires the taming skill, making the puppy his new companion. He checks its stats and finds it's actually a level 500 black Fenrir. Impressed by its stats, he thinks of a name and, observing its black fur, decides to call it Night. The puppy jumps onto him joyfully. They return to Yuya's house, and he examines the items dropped by the Orc King. There's an S-ranked magic stone, the sword, and armor used by the Orc King, though the gear can't be used by humans but could be reforged. There's also a rare brush with the ability to stimulate hair growth, which he uses to brush Night. Yuya checks his own stats and finds he's still level 235. He finds it strange that he didn't level up after defeating a level 600 monster, but believes he'll understand the leveling system eventually. Back in the real world, he leaves Night at home and goes to school. He asks his friends if there are any pet shops nearby, revealing he just adopted a dog. He gets excited and asks to see pictures, but Yuya becomes nervous with her so close. She apologizes, and Yuya explains he doesn't have any pictures because he doesn't even own a smartphone. His friends find this odd, but he says he never really needed one. They tell him about a nearby pet shop, but say they can't go with him after school. Keat offers to take him, and Yuya thanks her, though she starts thinking it could be like a date. She tells him not to worry about it. When he gets home, Knight rushes to him, and Yuya shows him the different items Keed helped him pick out from the shop. He gives Knight his new collar and decides they should go for a walk. They go to the park and everyone stares at them, thinking Yuya looks cool and Knight is adorable. He runs into Kaori and introduces Knight to her. She starts petting him and finds him adorable, while onlookers think they make a perfect couple. Kaori asks about Knight's breed, but Yuya pretends not to know, as he can't say it's a Fenrir. Kaori can tell Knight is smart and is happy Yuya adopted him. A girl calls out to Yuya, and it turns out to be Myo, the model he worked with. Turns out she also lives nearby and comes to the park to walk her dog. Yuya introduces the girls, and people are amazed to see him with another beautiful girl. They attract even more attention as people start recognizing Myo. Not wanting to cause a scene, Myo decides to leave but looks forward to seeing him again. After she leaves, Kaori wonders if Myo is his girlfriend, but Yuya is shocked, saying he's only met her once before and that she would be too good for him. Kaori disagrees with him. Suddenly, a woman screams as a man runs away with her purse. Kaori wonders what they should do, and Yuya tells Knight to chase the man. They check on the elderly lady, and Knight soon returns, dragging the man back. Yuya tells Kaori to call the police, but the man breaks free, charging at Kaori. Yuya steps in, easily disarming and restraining him. The crowd cheers for him, thinking he's very cool, and Kaori thanks him for saving her again. They hand the man over to the police, and Yuya heads home. Yuya continues exploring deeper into the dark forest with Knight, encountering countless monsters and challenges. They encounter another Orc King, but this time Knight showcases his skills, biting its neck and taking it down all by himself. As they continue on, they come across a crystal deer at level 630. Yuya, remaining invisible, observes the creature and notices its impressive magic stats. He contemplates how to approach it, but the deer suddenly detects him, despite his invisibility, leaving him no time to strategize. It charges at them, forcing the two to split up. Knight attempts an attack, but the deer counters with magic, creating an explosion to defend itself, and begins charging up another attack. Another attack erupts, firing a blast of water at Yuya, who deftly dodges it. Yuya realizes they need to coordinate, so he instructs Knight to create an opening. Knight leaps around the deer with remarkable speed, but the deer retaliates with magic, causing countless explosions in the area. Yet, Knight manages to land a hit, and Yuya seizes the moment to deliver the finishing blow. He examines the dropped items and notices a box that catches his eye. Upon closer inspection, he discovers it's a portable bath set that remains clean automatically, and includes a privacy feature to keep prying eyes away. Amazed by such a find, he decides to test it out, discovering various settings he can choose from. Realizing it's too dangerous to use in the middle of the forest, he opts to return to his house for the night and enjoys a relaxing bath with Knight. The next day, they face a needle roller known for its exceptional speed. Initially, Yuya struggles, but he soon learns to predict its movements and dodge its attacks, causing it to get stuck in a wall. He defeats it and finally levels up to 240, while Knight reaches level 510. Suddenly, the wall where the monster crashed begins to crack, revealing a cave. They decide to explore. Yuya scans for enemies but finds no signs of monsters. As they reach a larger room within the cave, it starts to light up. Yuya is stunned to find a body, but Knight points out a book on the floor. Yuya checks it and discovers it's the Book of the Sage. As Yuya reads the book, he learns that the sage mastered every skill and became as powerful as a god. The gods even invited him to join them, but he declined. The book begins speaking to Yuya, warning him that as he grows stronger, those around him will start to fear him. Yuya wonders how he can prevent this, and hears the sage's voice advising him to find trustworthy people. The sage asks if there's anything Yuya wants to know, and Yuya requests to learn magic. The sage fills the book with all his knowledge about magic, but notes that Yuya can't use magic because he lacks magical circuits, being from another world. However, the sage decides to transfer his own magical circuits to Yuya, urging him to find happiness and live a good life. Yuya returns home and starts learning magic from the book. He begins by sensing the magical energy around him and acquires the skill of magical energy manipulation. He learns that he only needs to gather magical energy in his hand and imagine the spell he wants to cast. He goes outside to try it out, envisioning a ball of water. Knight also appears to be learning, and Yuya tests his magic by shooting the ball at a tree, revealing its immense power as it blasts through the tree. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, Alan reports to the king about Yuya. When he mentions the princess's proposal, the king loses his composure, thinking that Yuya seduced his daughter. Back at school, Yuya daydreams about the sage's warning regarding the use of magic, noting that the techniques he's learning are uncommon even in his own world. The teacher announces a camping trip the following week and sorts them into groups of 4. Yuya is grouped with Keed, Akira, and a girl named Rin. Keed is excited about the trip, but Yuya mentions he doesn't have camping gear, so Keed suggests they go shopping. They head to the mall, where Shingo is surprised to see Kaori joining them. Ryo also can't believe Yuya is friends with Kaori, given that most people find her unapproachable because she's the director's daughter. Kaori tells them to treat her like any other student. Yuya wonders where Akira is, and Shingo mentions he couldn't make it. They go inside and help Yuya pick out a backpack. They decide to hang out and end up at an arcade. Shingo is thrilled to see his favorite character in a crane game, but admits he's terrible at it. Yuya decides to try, using his detect weakness skill to find the weak spot and wins the figure on his first try. Keed asks him to win her a cat, and Yuya uses his skill again, easily winning it for her. He ends up winning prizes for all his friends, and Kaori says it's her first time at an arcade, thanking him for the gift. The girls decide to shop for clothes, so the guys take a break and head to a cafe. Yuya reflects on the fun he had hanging out with friends for the first time, but suddenly an alarm rings, announcing a fire and the need to evacuate. Yuya worries about the girls, thinking the fire might be closer to them. They reach the stairs, and Yuya asks a man if he has seen his friends. Ryo receives a call from Keed, who says they are still stuck upstairs. Yuya rushes up the stairs, thinking of his friends, and reaches the source of the fire. The sprinklers aren't enough to extinguish it, so Yuya decides to use his magic. He covers himself with a layer of water, allowing him to run through the flames. The girls are unconscious from the smoke, and Yuya hurries to find them. He reaches them just in time and wonders if there is anyone else. He uses his detection skill to scan the building and finds they are the only ones left. He covers the girls with his magic, but the fire intensifies, and he fears they might not make it out. Meanwhile, Ryo and Shingo watch from outside, informing the officers that their friends are still inside, but nothing can be done until the fire is under control. Yuya runs around searching for an exit, but the roof collapses. As he dodges, Kaori drops the gift he gave her. He reaches a dead end and realizes there's no way out, so he uses his magic to smash through the building and create his own escape route. The building shakes, but Yuya manages to get out with the girls. They receive medical attention, and the firefighters reprimand him for his recklessness. Kaori's father arrives, thanking him for saving his daughter once more, and Yuya returns the honor pin he picked up. Kaori hugs her father, and Yuya reflects on what a family should be like, realizing he doesn't have anyone like that. But when he gets home, Night rushes to him, and Yuya realizes that Night is like family to him. Reflecting on what more he can achieve with magic, Yuya recalls that magic is merely the materialization of his imagination. He contemplates using it to travel, focusing on his desired destination, and manages to open a portal that takes him deep into the dark forest. He is thrilled that it worked, but it seems he can only use it to reach places he has already been. He thinks he might use it to return home and feed Night, even while he is on his school trip. They seize the chance to explore further and discover a cave that houses some goblins. With his legendary sword, Yuya defeats them effortlessly, finding a collection of rare items that he stores away using his storage skill. He feels that his teamwork with Night is improving. They leave the cave, and Yuya thinks they should call it a day, but Night, disheartened, wishes to continue. Yuya says he needs to return to prepare for his school trip, but Night suddenly runs off. Yuya chases after him, and it seems Night detects something ahead. Yuya uses his invisibility skill to proceed with caution. He comes across an injured girl surrounded by goblins. Yuya wants to save her, but Night pulls him back. An elite goblin attacks, knocking down a tree, but it seems there are some threads that interfere, and the girl counterattacks, severing the goblin's arm. Yuya wonders about the threads, but the goblins launch themselves at the girl. She blocks their attacks with her threads, but the elite goblin lands a hit, seemingly knocking her out. As the goblin approaches her, Yuya and Night emerge and together eliminate the goblins, only to be met by a swarm of new ones. Yuya decides to use his divine whip, binding and crushing all the goblins in a single strike. He feels it's incredibly overpowered, capable of targeting multiple enemies at once and never missing. After the battle, Yuya ponders what to do with the girl. He considers taking her home, but it seems Night thinks it's a bad idea. He doesn't want to leave her, but she suddenly wakes up, surprised to be carried, and falls to the ground. Yuya offers her his healing juice, which instantly heals all her wounds. The girl is astonished by its effectiveness and wonders who he is. Yuya introduces himself and Night, but Night remains hostile, leaving Yuya puzzled. They learn the girl's name is Luna. She reveals she was training in the forest when she was ambushed by the elite goblin and ended up in trouble. She asks what happened to the goblins, and Yuya tells her he defeated them. She inquires about his presence in the forest, and he admits he was training as well, which surprises Luna for some reason, since Yuya was the one who carried her to safety. Luna apologizes for being so dirty and sweaty, but Yuya assures her it's okay. She asks if there's a river nearby where she can clean up, but Yuya brings out his portable bath. He keeps watch outside, and Luna is amazed by such a rare item. Yuya mentions it came from a crystal deer, and Luna is impressed that he defeated such a monster. Yuya finds this normal for the dark forest, but Luna reveals she is there on a client's request. Though Yuya does not hear this, Luna asks him to join her training, as they are both training in the forest and she wants to train with him. Yuya feels guilty about leaving her to train alone, so he agrees to join her. We then see them training together, with Yuya helping Luna practice while she also teaches him. They both grow stronger, and Luna defeats a goblin using her threads. Yuya praises her for defeating an elite goblin, but she says she still has a long way to go and needs to become even stronger to complete her mission. Yuya says he needs to leave, trying to explain that he has a school trip, but it doesn't make much sense to her, so he simply apologizes. Luna thanks him for all his help. After their last day of training, Yuya relaxes in a bath, but Luna suddenly joins him, wanting to share the bath. Yuya feels embarrassed, but Luna clings to him, expressing how much the time with him has meant to her and how she will cherish it. She thanks him again, offering to wash his bath, but her towel falls, and Yuya becomes even more embarrassed. His class sets off on their school trip, and we see Yuya playing cards with his friend. Keed remarks that Yuya looks tired, and Yuya admits he didn't sleep well the previous night. Yuya wins the game, and everyone is amazed that he won 5 times in a row, but Yuya thinks it's just luck. He decides to take a nap and reflects that his continual victories might be due to the points he invested in his luck stat, considering that the incident with Luna might also have been due to luck. Yuya is awakened as they arrive at their destination. The students change clothes, and the teacher explains they will be camping for 2 days and must find a way to survive off the land, mentioning fish in the river and edible plants, with concerns that the plants might be poisonous. Sawada assures them the school doctor is on standby, although the students find her eerie because they always hear screams from her office. Akira thinks they could go without food for a day, but Sawada says it's all part of the lesson, noting it's a competition between the classes. Yuya wonders if there's a reward for the winners, but Sawada reveals it affects her bonus and tells them to do their best, though the students are unimpressed. They are left in the forest, and Yuya wonders what they should do first. Akira thinks it will be easy to survive, but the other 3 ignore him, thinking he's a fool. Rin suggests that Yuya and Ki try fishing while she and Akira look for edible plants. We see all the students by the river, and Ki thinks they were too slow. They see Rio by the water, and he warns them that all the good spots are taken. Ki wonders if they should try something else, but Yuya uses his detection skill and finds another spot. There are many fish in the area, but Ki thinks the water is too shallow, so their fishing rods won't be effective. However, Yuya has another plan. He steps into the water and thinks that, compared to the monsters of the dark forest, the fish are much slower. He recalls what he learned from Luna about predicting monster behavior and manages to catch a fish with his hand. Keed is impressed by this, and Yuya continues to catch all the fish. The other students think he's crazy, and Keed believes he has caught too many fish. Yuya admits he got carried away and thinks he should thank Luna for her advice. Meanwhile, in a dark part of the city, we see a shop filled with puppets. Luna uses her threads to cut off all the heads of the puppets and notices that her power has improved. She reflects on the time she spent with Yuya, but we reveal that she is, in fact, an assassin who has been killing since childhood. However, she views Yuya differently, wishing she had met him earlier so her life could have taken a different path. But she knows she needs to forget him, as she is known as the head hunter and prepares for her next target. Hey my dear, thanks for watching until the end. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for part 2 and more anime recaps. See you next time.